A single dad broke down in the ER at midnight until a billionaire widow said, "I know that pain too." The hum of hovering cars and distant sirens filled the streets, but inside the ER, there was a different kind of chaos, a quiet kind that weighed heavy on anyone who had ever felt powerless. Jackson Trelaw's heart was pounding, and his breath came in ragged bursts. His hands shook as he carried his daughter, Lily, into the lobby, her small body limp in his arms. Blood smeared the sleeve of his jacket, though thankfully only from a deep scratch on her arm. Her wide, brown eyes fluttered open and closed as she whimpered softly. "Please, someone help," Jackson gasped, his voice cracking. Panic clawed at his chest. The hospital AI system blinked to life with a calm, robotic voice. "Emergency detected. Please place patient on the triage bed." Jackson hurried, ignoring the receptionist who barely glanced up from her tablet. The hospital's automated triage system scanned Lily in seconds, detecting her injuries and vital signs. A holographic display popped up, showing her condition. Nothing life-threatening yet, but her pulse was uneven and Jackson could feel every rapid thump like a drum in his own chest. He wanted to sit. He wanted to cry, but he couldn't. He had to be strong for Lily. "Daddy, it hurts," Lily whispered. Her voice was tiny, fragile, and it hit him harder than anything else. Jackson swallowed, his throat tight. "I know, baby, I know. We're going to be okay, I promise." But he wasn't sure if he believed it. He carried her down the hall, past the soft whirs of automated nurses, past the doors with blinking indicators of patients in need. Midnight in the ER was supposed to be quieter, but tonight, it felt like the hospital was alive in some strange, mechanical way, every machine and light moving with purpose, while Jackson felt frozen in place. He found a small corner near the triage bay, out of the way of the AI nurses, and gently laid Lily down. She coughed softly, wincing, and he wiped a strand of hair from her forehead. Jackson sank to the floor next to her, his back against the cool wall, and exhaled. "I can't do this," he whispered, though he meant it for no one but himself. "I can't, the weight of the past year pressed down on him like a mountain. Ever since his wife died in that freak spaceport accident, Jackson had been both mother and father to Lily. Every day was a balancing act: work, school, keeping the bills paid, making sure Lily had enough to eat and a roof over her head. Some days he felt like a failure. Some days he felt like he was barely holding on. And now this: Lily hurt because of something he couldn't prevent. Something he couldn't control. He closed his eyes, the exhaustion from weeks of broken sleep hitting him like a tidal wave. His chest felt tight, and for the first time in months, the tears he had held back spilled freely. He didn't even try to stop them. "Daddy," Lily's voice pulled him back. Her little hand reached out, touching his cheek. He forced a smile through the tears. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." He rubbed her arm gently, trying to calm both of them. Around him, the ER hummed, but no one seemed to notice the man and child sitting on the floor. Machines beeped and whirred, robotic voices instructed, and doctors and nurses moved like ghosts in the night. And Jackson felt invisible. Hours ago, he had been rushing through the city streets, hovering past bright billboards and glass towers, when Lily had tripped over a loose panel at the Tech Expo. Something had been leaking sparks, a small electrical malfunction from a display robot. She had fallen hard, and he had caught her just in time to prevent worse injuries. But the scratches, the pain, the fear in her eyes, it haunted him. And now, sitting on the cold floor of the ER, he finally let himself break. A shadow fell across them, and Jackson looked up, startled. A woman stood there, her silhouette framed by the bright hallway lights. She was tall, with sharp, deliberate movements that seemed to command attention without a word. Her suit was impeccable, and her presence alone felt like a force of nature. "You look like you need a hand," she said softly, but with authority. Jackson blinked, unsure if he had imagined her. He shook his head. I just, his words faltered. He felt foolish. I know that look, the woman said, crouching slightly to meet his eyes. Her voice was calm, warm, yet steady like a lighthouse in a storm. It's the look of someone who's lost control of everything that matters. Jackson stared at her. Who are you? Selene Armitage, she said. I know this pain too. I lost someone once, a long time ago. Her words were simple, but they struck something deep inside him, a flicker of recognition. Someone else understood. Someone else had felt the fear, the guilt, the helplessness of watching someone you love get hurt. Jackson swallowed hard. You do, Selene nodded. Her eyes softened and she glanced at Lily, who was now dozing slightly. Yes, and I can help. Jackson wanted to argue. He wanted to tell her to go away. But something in her tone, in her presence, made him pause. She didn't look like someone who demanded help or sympathy. She looked like someone who could actually make a difference. The AI nurse suddenly announced, "Patient priority update, critical intervention required. Please proceed to treatment bay." Jackson jumped to his feet, Lily still in his arms. Selene's voice stopped him. "Let me handle it," she said. "Step back, trust me." He hesitated, but the exhaustion and fear in him made him obey. He stepped aside, watching as Selene approached the triage interface. Her fingers moved over the holographic display with confidence, bypassing protocols and alerts the AI had set. Within moments, Lily's treatment was prioritized. Jackson felt a strange mix of relief and awe. Who was this woman? How did she know how to do that? And why did he feel grateful? She glanced back at him, her expression softening. Sometimes the system is too cold, too slow. Humans have to step in. Jackson wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but Lily whimpered again, and he focused on her. He lowered himself back to the floor, holding her close, feeling her pulse slow as she was stabilized. "Thank you," he whispered, more to the universe than to her. Selene knelt beside him briefly, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. But you don't forget that you are stronger than you think." Jackson's chest tightened. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to cling to that hope. For Lily, for himself, for the tiny flicker of light in the darkness. The night stretched on, but for the first time in hours, he didn't feel completely alone. And as he sat in that ER corner, holding his daughter, he realized something that terrified him as much as it inspired him. Human courage, the raw, unfiltered, unprogrammable kind, was the only thing that could make a difference in this city that seemed to value machines over people. And he wasn't ready to give up yet. The emergency room was quieter now, but the tension in the air remained thick. Jackson Treloff sat beside Lily's bed, her small hand wrapped around his finger. She was sleeping peacefully, her chest rising and falling evenly, but he couldn't relax. Every creak of the hospital floor, every distant announcement, made him flinch. Selene Armitage remained standing nearby, her sharp suit and calm presence making her seem almost unreal. Jackson kept stealing glances at her, unsure whether to feel wary or grateful. Finally, he broke the silence. Why are you helping us? You don't even know me." Selene tilted her head slightly, a small, knowing smile on her face. "I know pain like yours," she said quietly. "And I know how it feels when the people you love are hurt because someone else didn't care, or worse, because someone did care, too much about money and power." Jackson frowned. "I don't understand." Selene walked slowly to the chair beside him and sat down. "Years ago I lost my child. My husband had a corporation, the kind that built AI systems for hospitals, factories, even homes. One of our experiments went wrong and someone I loved died." Her voice was steady, but there was a shadow in her eyes. "I know that helplessness. The feeling that the world is cold, uncaring, and maybe out to get you." Jackson didn't know what to say. He only nodded, his throat tight. I can't imagine." She reached out and touched his hand briefly. "You don't have to imagine, you're living it, and that's why I'm here." For a moment, Jackson just looked at her, unsure whether to trust this stranger. But he felt something strange, a spark of connection, a tiny hope. Someone understood, and maybe that was enough. The hospital's AI nurse chirped again, announcing that Lily was stable but needed observation for a few hours. Jackson let out a shaky breath and rubbed her hair gently. "She's okay for now," he said. "But what if something happens again?" Selini's eyes softened. "That's why I'm here. I can't promise the world will be perfect, but I can help you protect her." Jackson hesitated, then asked the question he had been holding back. "Why you? Why go out of your way for me?" Selini's smile faded slightly. "Because I can, and because I should." Humans, we underestimate what we can do. We think machines, rules, and money control everything. But we don't. Our choices, our courage, our willingness to act, that's what matters. Right now, I see a father who is willing to do anything for his child. That is worth helping. Jackson's chest tightened. He wasn't used to being seen like this. He was used to hiding behind work, behind excuses, behind the busyness of life. But here, at this quiet, late hour in a hospital corner, someone saw him for what he truly was, a man who loved his child more than anything. The hospital doors opened with a soft hiss, and a young nurse stepped in. "Mr. Trelaw, we're moving Lily to observation now. It'll be about an hour before we can discharge her if she stays stable." Jackson nodded, carefully lifting Lily in his arms again. Selini rose beside him. "I'll walk with you," she said. They moved through the empty halls, their footsteps echoing. Jackson couldn't help but notice how the hospital seemed almost mechanical, almost cold, except for Selini's presence. She made it feel less frightening, less lonely. Finally, they reached a quieter room. Lily was settled on a bed with soft blankets. Jackson sat beside her, still holding her hand. He glanced at Selini. "I don't even know your story. How did you survive something like that?" Selini leaned against the wall, her expression distant. "I survived by learning, by observing, by refusing to let the system dictate my life. I lost someone I loved because people valued efficiency and profit over safety. And I made a choice. I would not let that happen again, to me or anyone else." Jackson listened, fascinated. There was something almost heroic about her, but there was also sadness. He realized she carried pain too, just like him. He asked quietly, "Do you think someone hurt Lily on purpose?" Selini's eyes narrowed. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied Jackson carefully, as if measuring how much to reveal. Then slowly she spoke. "I don't know yet, but I suspect her accident wasn't completely random. Sometimes the system, machines, corporate oversight fails because someone wants it to fail. And I have seen that before." Jackson's stomach tightened. "You mean someone tried to hurt her?" Selini shook her head. "Maybe, or maybe it was negligence, but negligence can be as dangerous as malice. And when money and power are involved, people rarely admit mistakes." Jackson ran a hand over his face. He had spent all day trying to keep it together, and now fear and worry returned stronger than ever. I just want her to be safe." Selini's expression softened. "And she will be, but you need to understand something. Humans have a strength that machines and rules cannot touch. That strength, your intuition, your courage, your love, is what will protect her more than anything else. You are stronger than you realize." Jackson wanted to believe her. He wanted to hold on to that hope like a lifeline. "I don't know if I am strong enough." Selini moved closer, gently placing her hand on his shoulder. "You already are. That's why you're here with her now. Not a machine, not an AI nurse, not a corporation. You. You fought through fear, exhaustion, and guilt just to get her into this room. That is strength." Jackson's eyes burned. He had never thought of himself that way. He had always seen himself as ordinary, just scraping by. But Selini, she saw something in him he had forgotten existed. For a few minutes they sat in silence. Lily slept, breathing evenly. The hospital lights hummed softly. Jackson felt the tension in his shoulders slowly ease just a little. Then Selini spoke again. "I want to tell you something about why I think this accident might not have been random." Jackson's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Selini took a deep breath. "My husband's company, it built AI systems for public and private use. Some of those systems can manipulate machinery, control security, even influence accidents if someone programs them that way. A few years ago, I discovered that some executives in the company were willing to cut corners, cover up mistakes, and even risk lives to protect their profits. I never imagined I'd see another innocent person caught in the consequences. Jackson stared at her, his mind spinning. "You're saying someone could have done this to Lily?" Selene nodded slowly. "I'm not sure yet, but I intend to find out, and I want you to help me." Jackson froze. "Help you? Why me? I'm just a dad. I'm not a detective or an investigator." Selene's eyes locked onto his. "That's exactly why I need you. Humans can see things machines can't. You notice details, you sense danger, you care. Those things are invisible to AIs, invisible to algorithms, invisible to people who only care about profit. And right now, those things matter." Jackson swallowed hard. His mind was racing. Part of him wanted to refuse. He had Lily to think about. He had bills, work, and barely enough energy to keep going. But another part of him, an instinctive human part, felt a spark of purpose. Maybe he could do something. Maybe he could fight back. Selene smiled faintly. "I know it's a lot, but you don't have to do it alone. I'll guide you, protect you, and make sure you and Lily are safe while we do this. But I can't do it without your help. And I think you want to help too." Jackson looked down at Lily. Her small hand twitched in his. Her trust in him was absolute. He realized that protecting her wasn't just about keeping her safe today. It was about preparing for tomorrow, about refusing to let fear control their lives. He took a deep breath and met Selene's gaze. "Okay," he said quietly. "I'll help, but we have to be careful for Lily." Selene nodded, satisfaction flickering across her face. "Careful, yes, but also determined. That's what humans do best." For the next hour, the three of them, Jackson, Lily, and Selene, remained in the quiet hospital room. Jackson watched over his daughter while Selene explained the basics of the situation. She outlined what she knew about her late husband's company, the rogue executives, and the potential dangers of the AI systems. Jackson listened intently, absorbing every word, feeling a strange mixture of fear, excitement, and determination. By the time Lily stirred and opened her eyes again, Jackson felt different. He wasn't just a scared, exhausted father anymore. He was someone who could act, someone who could fight, someone whose humanity, his courage, intuition, and love could make a difference in a world that seemed to value machines over people. Selene watched him, her expression unreadable but approving. "Rest now," she said softly. "Tomorrow we begin. And remember, humans are stronger than any machine." Jackson held Lily close, feeling her warmth and trust. For the first time in days, he slept a little easier, knowing that while the path ahead would be dangerous, he wouldn't walk it alone. And that, he realized, was the first step toward hope. Morning light slowly crept through the tall glass windows of the hospital. The neon glow of the city faded as the sun rose, painting the sky with soft orange and pale blue. Jackson Trelaw sat beside Lily's bed, his eyes heavy but alert. He had not slept much. Every small movement from his daughter made his heart jump. Lily stirred and opened her eyes. "Daddy," she whispered. "I'm here," Jackson said quickly, leaning forward. He smiled, though his face showed the long night he had endured. "How do you feel, sweetheart?" she thought for a moment. Tired but not hurting as much. Relief washed over him like a warm wave. "That's good, really good." Across the room, Selene Armitage stood near the window, speaking quietly into a small device. When she noticed Lily awake, she turned and smiled. "Good morning," Selene said gently. "You gave us quite a scare." Lily blinked at her. "Are you Daddy's friend?" Jackson hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, she helped us last night." Selene stepped closer and knelt beside the bed. "You're very brave, Lily." Lily smiled faintly, then yawned. Within minutes, she drifted back to sleep. A doctor soon entered and confirmed that Lily could be discharged later that day. She would need rest, but there were no serious injuries. Jackson thanked the doctor more times than necessary. When they were finally alone again, Jackson turned to Selene. "You said yesterday that this might not have been an accident," Selene nodded. "Yes, and I didn't say that lightly." Jackson stood and stretched, his muscles aching. "Then tell me what you know." Selene gestured toward the chairs near the window. "Sit. This won't be quick." They sat facing each other, sunlight between them. For a moment, Selene was quiet, as if choosing her words carefully. "My late husband built intelligent systems," she began. "Not just hospital AIs, but event management systems, safety drones, and public machines. The tech expo your daughter attended used one of those systems." Jackson frowned. "You're saying the robot that malfunctioned was part of his company's network," Selene finished. "Yes." Jackson's jaw tightened. "Then why would it fail?" Selene folded her hands. "Because someone changed the rules quietly, without permission." Jackson felt a chill run through him. On purpose, possibly, or carelessly. Either way, someone decided safety checks were not important enough. Jackson shook his head. "That expo was full of kids, families." "Exactly," Selene said. "Which is why this matters." She stood and tapped her device. A small hologram appeared between them, showing a simplified map of the expo floor. A blinking red dot marked the spot where Lily fell. "This machine," Selene continued, "was not scheduled to operate at that time. It should have been offline." Jackson leaned forward. "Then why was it active?" Selene met his eyes. "Because someone wanted it to be." Silence filled the room. Jackson felt anger rising in his chest, not loud or wild, but deep and steady. "They risked lives," he said quietly. "Yes," Selene replied, "and they've done it before." Jackson looked down at his hands. He had spent years fixing cargo ships, learning how systems failed and why. Most breakdowns were not accidents, they were choices. "So what do we do?" he asked. Selene smiled slightly. "Now we stop being afraid." That afternoon, Jackson and Lily left the hospital. Selene arranged transport, and within minutes, a quiet, smooth-moving vehicle arrived. Lily slept during the ride, her head resting on Jackson's shoulder. They reached a tall building near the edge of the city. It looked simple from the outside, but Jackson sensed there was more to it. "This is one of my private research centers," Selene explained. "No corporate oversight, no hidden agendas." Inside, the space was warm and calm. Soft lights, clean air, and human voices instead of robotic ones. Jackson noticed something strange. There were machines everywhere, but they did not feel cold or distant. "They work for people here," Selene said, noticing his expression. "Not the other way around." Lily was taken to a comfortable room with books, screens, and a nurse who smiled and spoke kindly. Jackson watched until Lily settled in. When he returned, Selene was waiting with a tablet. "I need your help," she said again. "Not because of what you know, but because of how you think." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "I fix ships." "You understand systems," Selene replied, "and you understand people. That makes you dangerous to the wrong kind of power." She showed him data from the expo, maintenance logs, override commands, patterns that looked random but were not. Jackson studied them carefully. "This override," he said slowly, pointing, "it's manual, but hidden inside an automated command." Selene smiled. "Exactly. A machine wouldn't question it, but a human would." Jackson felt a spark ignite inside him. For the first time since his wife died, he felt useful again, not just surviving, but contributing. Over the next 2 days, they worked quietly. Selene provided access. Jackson analyzed patterns. Together, they discovered something disturbing. The expo accident was not the only one. There were others. Minor injuries, small malfunctions. Enough to be ignored individually, but together they formed a clear picture. "Testing," Jackson said one night. "They're testing limits, seeing what they can get away with." Selene nodded grimly. "And when no one stops them, they push further." Jackson leaned back in his chair. "They think machines will take the blame." "Yes," Selene said, Machines don't talk. Jackson clenched his fists. But people do. The next step was risky. Selene wanted to access a secure corporate server tied to her late husband's company. Officially, she had no authority. Unofficially, she still had influence. This is where it gets dangerous, Selene warned. Jackson thought of Lily sleeping safely in the next room. Then let's be smart. They didn't rush. They didn't break in loudly. They used patience, timing, and something machines could not predict: human behavior. Jackson noticed small things: a delay that happened only during shift changes, a backup system that relied on human approval. There, he said. That's the door. Selene smiled. You see what others don't. When they finally accessed the server, the truth was undeniable. A group of executives had approved experimental AI behavior in public spaces. They labeled it efficiency testing. Safety warnings were suppressed. Incident reports were buried. Jackson felt sick. They knew. Yes, Selene said softly, and they didn't care. They copied everything: logs, messages, proof. But before they could celebrate, an alert flashed. Access detected, the system announced. Selene's expression hardened. We've been noticed. Jackson's heart raced, but his mind stayed clear. They'll expect panic, Selene nodded, so we don't give it to them. They shut down access cleanly, leaving no trace of force. The system reset itself, confused but intact. Hours later, Selene received a message, a warning. They were being watched. Jackson sat quietly after reading it. They'll come after you. Selene shook her head. No, they'll come after you. Jackson looked up sharply. Me? You're unpredictable, she said. You don't belong to their world. That scares them. Jackson thought about that, about how ordinary he was, a single dad, a worker, and yet here he was standing between powerful people and the truth. I won't hide, he said. Selene smiled. I hoped you'd say that. That night, Jackson sat beside Lily's bed as she slept. He watched her chest rise and fall, steady and calm. He realized something important. Humans were not strong because they were perfect. They were strong because they cared, because they noticed, because they refused to look away. Machines could calculate. Corporations could control. But only humans could choose to protect. Jackson reached for his tablet and began writing, not code, not data, but a message, a record, a voice. And he knew deep down that once the truth was released, the world would have to listen. Because this time, humans were paying attention. The city was no longer quiet. Neon lights reflected off glass towers, and the hum of hovering vehicles filled the streets. But inside Selene's private research center, there was a different kind of tension, a silent, controlled storm. Jackson and Selene were sitting side by side, their eyes scanning rows of holographic data projected from multiple screens. Every flicker, every line of code told a story, and that story was dangerous. Jackson rubbed his temples. So, what do we do now? He asked. They've seen our access. They know someone is digging. Selene nodded, her expression calm but determined. Now we fight smart. We expose the truth while staying one step ahead. They control machines, rules, and surveillance, but we control human judgment, and that is powerful. Jackson leaned back in his chair. It feels impossible. Selene looked at him sharply. Impossible is only a word humans use when they're afraid to try. You're not afraid anymore, are you? Jackson shook his head. No, I won't let them hurt anyone else. Selene's lips curved into a faint smile. Good, then let's begin. The first step was gathering evidence. They accessed public footage, private logs, and even old incident reports. Each file revealed more than just mistakes. It revealed a pattern. Machines were being pushed beyond safe limits, incidents were quietly suppressed, and people were being manipulated to follow unsafe protocols. Jackson noticed something the AI systems could not. Look here, he said, pointing at a holographic display of several drone paths. This isn't random. Someone is testing how far the machines can operate without supervision. Selene nodded. Exactly. They're trying to learn what humans can tolerate, and when they cross the line, accidents happen. But the world sees only accidents. Jackson clenched his fists. They're playing with lives. Yes, Selene replied softly, and that is why we act. Over the next few days, Jackson and Selene planned their move. They had to be careful. The executives behind the system were powerful and ruthless. But Jackson had one advantage machines could never replicate: human ingenuity. Jackson spent hours studying schedules, surveillance patterns, and AI routines. He noticed small gaps in the system: shifts when AI monitoring was less strict, predictable maintenance cycles, and certain human behaviors the machines relied on. These were vulnerabilities only a human could detect. Selene, meanwhile, coordinated resources. She contacted trusted allies and accessed secure servers without leaving a trace. Her experience navigating corporate tech and Jackson's instincts complemented each other perfectly. By the third day, they had enough evidence to start exposing the conspiracy. Jackson felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was bigger than him, bigger than Lily, but he could not ignore it. "This is it," Selene said quietly, showing him the compiled data. "Every incident, every manipulated machine, every cover-up, all in one place. If we release this, people will have to see the truth." Jackson swallowed hard. "And they'll come after us." "They already are," Selene replied. "That's why we must be smart." The next step was human contact. Machines controlled security, but humans controlled communication, empathy, and trust. Selene reached out to journalists, engineers, and whistleblowers she trusted. Jackson felt nervous. He had never faced anything like this. "What if they trace it back to us?" he asked. Selene shook her head. "Humans can't be traced like machines. As long as we act carefully, they won't know who released the information first." Jackson took a deep breath. "All right, let's do it." They began coordinating the release. Every journalist received a secure message with the evidence. Every engineer was given instructions on how to verify it. Human networks were suddenly activated, humans helping humans, against machines that could only predict patterns. That evening, news of the exposé went public. Screens all over the city lit up with headlines. AI safety breaches exposed, executives endanger lives for profit, human vigilance uncovers hidden dangers. People stopped to watch. Social media exploded. Discussions, debates, outrage. Humans were finally paying attention. Jackson sat back in his chair, exhausted but alert. "We did it," he whispered. Selene shook her head. "Not yet. This is only the beginning. They will retaliate. Machines will respond. Rules will change. We have to be ready." Almost immediately, they noticed anomalies. Automated security drones patrolled streets near Selene's research center. AI surveillance systems adjusted behavior, scanning more aggressively for intrusions. The corporate executives were using every tool at their disposal. Jackson felt a rush of adrenaline. "They think they can outsmart humans." Selene smiled faintly. "That's their mistake. Humans can adapt. Machines follow rules." The first confrontation came at night. Jackson had just checked on Lily, ensuring she was sleeping safely in her room. Suddenly the building's alarms blared. Lights flashed red. Drone cameras appeared outside the windows, scanning the perimeter. Jackson's heart raced. "They found us," he whispered. Selene was calm. "No, they see activity, but humans think unpredictably. Follow my instructions." She guided him to a hidden exit, one Jackson had not noticed before. It was narrow, winding, and difficult for machines to navigate. They moved quickly, silently. Outside, the city hummed. Drones patrolled overhead, but Jackson realized something crucial. Humans could move in ways machines couldn't anticipate. For hours, they avoided detection, using side streets, alleyways, and underground passages. Jackson's mind worked faster than any algorithm. He calculated angles, timing, and patterns, simple human intuition that machines could not mimic. Finally, they returned to the research center, safe but aware of the increasing threat. Jackson sat in the control room, catching his breath. "They're powerful," he said. "But they can't think like us," Selene nodded. "Exactly, that is why we fight." The next day, they doubled their efforts. Jackson began mapping potential corporate attacks, predicting where machines might intervene. Selene coordinated support from human allies in other cities, engineers and technicians who had grown tired of corporate greed. Each move they made highlighted the difference between humans and machines. Machines followed rules and patterns. Humans improvised. Humans cared. Humans noticed details that algorithms ignored. Jackson found a small mistake in one of the corporate AI routines, something a human would notice but a machine would never see. He flagged it, and Selene used it to counteract potential threats. "The system thinks it's in control," Jackson said, "but it is." Selene's eyes gleamed. "No, humans are in control." That evening, Jackson reflected on the journey. The danger was real. Machines and executives could do a lot. But humans, imperfect, emotional, creative humans, were unstoppable when they worked together. He thought about Lily sleeping upstairs. He thought about the small acts of courage that had brought them this far. Every decision, every instinct, every choice mattered. Humans weren't just fighting technology or corporate greed. They were proving something larger, that care, courage, and love could overcome cold, calculated systems. And Jackson realized that for the first time, he felt truly alive, not just a survivor, but a fighter. Selene approached him quietly. "Tomorrow we take the final step. We ensure this truth cannot be ignored." Jackson nodded. "And we protect the people it affects." "Yes," Selene said, her gaze steady. "We show the world that humans, ordinary people, can do extraordinary things. That even against machines and power, humanity wins." Jackson smiled faintly. "Then let's finish this." Outside, the city pulsed with neon light, unaware of the quiet war happening behind glass walls. Inside, humans were fighting for truth, justice, and safety. And in that room, Jackson and Selene knew one thing clearly. Machines could calculate, corporations could control, but humans could choose. And that choice made all the difference. The sun had barely risen when Jackson Trella woke. Lily was still asleep, curled under her blanket like a small, fragile bird. He watched her chest rise and fall, steady and calm, and felt a warmth that mixed with determination. Today, they would finish what they had started. Selene was already in the control room, reviewing data. The holographic screens flickered softly, displaying paths, networks, and patterns. Every line of code they had collected, every incident report, every hidden override command, they had it all. It was time to release the final proof. Jackson joined her, trying to focus. "Are you sure this will work?" he asked. "They're powerful, machines, lawyers, everything." Selene shook her head. "No system is perfect. No person is unbeatable. Remember what we've learned. Humans adapt. Humans improvise. Humans care. That is more powerful than any machine." Jackson nodded slowly. Her words steadied him. "Then let's make it count." The first step was exposure. They had coordinated with journalists, engineers, and whistleblowers. Now, the full network of evidence would go public. Jackson hesitated for a moment, thinking of Lily. He wanted to protect her, not put her in danger. But Selene reminded him, the truth protects everyone, especially her generation. If we stay silent, more people could be hurt. He took a deep breath and hit the send button. The files, the logs, the proof, all of it was transmitted to trusted outlets, carefully encrypted to prevent manipulation. Within minutes, notifications began appearing across screens and devices in the city. Headlines spread like wildfire. AI malfunctions exposed, lives at risk. As the news spread, Selene and Jackson monitored reactions. Citizens were shocked, engineers debated online, and corporate boards scrambled. AI systems began to behave erratically, recalibrating in real time to protect themselves from human intervention. But the humans behind the screens, Jackson, Selene, and their allies were faster. Jackson realized something important. Machines could calculate, but humans could anticipate. Machines could follow protocols, but humans could improvise. And humans, ordinary people, flawed and emotional, could unite in ways no algorithm could predict. "This is it," Jackson said quietly. "This is what we've been fighting for." Selene nodded. "Yes, but stay alert. The executives will respond." The response came quickly. Automated drones appeared in the city streets, security systems were tightened, and corporate lawyers began issuing threats. Jackson felt tension rise, but Selene remained calm. "They think intimidation will work," she said, "but humans do not give in that easily. Remember, unpredictability is our strength." Jackson's mind raced. He mapped out the city in his head, predicting drone paths, security patrols, and likely AI responses. Every step Selene and he had taken so far had been preparation. Now it was time to act decisively. They coordinated with engineers to disable certain automated systems. It wasn't permanent, but it gave them enough space to operate safely. Jackson led the effort, using intuition, experience, and observation, skills no machine could replicate. Hours later, the executives realized their control was slipping. Panic spread through their ranks. They could not predict human ingenuity, empathy, or courage. They had relied on machines too much, and humans had already outsmarted them. Meanwhile, the city reacted. People began asking questions. The news forced transparency. Officials initiated investigations. AI systems were audited. Safety protocols were enforced. And the ordinary citizens, parents, engineers, and community members recognized the power of human action. Jackson watched from Selene's center as this unfolded. He felt pride not for himself but for humanity. Ordinary people, guided by courage, had made a difference. Machines and corporations had limits. Humans did not. Selene placed a hand on his shoulder. "Look at them," she said softly. "People are awake. They're seeing what we've known all along. Humans can fight for what is right even when everything seems against them." Jackson nodded, thinking of Lily. This was why he had acted, not for fame, not for money, but for her, and for all the children who deserved safety and truth. By evening, the confrontation reached a climax. The corporate executives attempted a coordinated strike to regain control. Automated security tried to block access, drones patrolled rooftops, and AI algorithms tried to disable communications. But Jackson and Selene were ready. Using human unpredictability, improvised tactics, and rapid coordination with allies, they countered every move. Every obstacle was met with creativity, courage, and careful planning. Jackson realized, for the first time, the full power of human intuition. He could predict machine actions, not because of technology, but because of human patterns embedded in their programming. Humans built these systems, humans used them, and therefore humans could outthink them. After hours of careful navigation, every move checked and double-checked, the final confrontation ended. The evidence had reached the public. AI systems were contained. Corporate executives were exposed and under investigation. Justice, slow and human, began to take its course. Jackson returned home that night. Lily was asleep in her bed, safe, unaware of the storm they had just faced. He tucked a blanket around her shoulders and sat beside her for a long moment, watching her breathe. He felt tired, physically and emotionally, but also lighter. For the first time since his wife died, he felt that he had done something meaningful, something that mattered. Selene joined him quietly. "You did well," she said, "better than you know." Jackson shook his head. "We did this together, but I couldn't have done any of it without you." Selene smiled. "You were the one who acted when it counted. I guided, but you led. That is human strength. That is why the world changed today." Jackson looked at her, seeing not just a billionaire or a widow, but a person who had also endured loss, pain, and fear, and had turned it into action. I guess humans really are stronger than machines, he said quietly. Seleni's eyes sparkled. Yes, when they care, when they think, when they act. That is strength no machine can match. The next morning, sunlight filled the apartment. Jackson watched Lily play with a small toy robot, laughing as it moved across the floor. He realized something important. The world was not perfect. Machines and corporations would always exist. Challenges would arise. But humans, ordinary, flawed, courageous humans, would always rise to meet them. Jackson felt hope stir inside him. He had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and through it all he had acted not out of fear but out of love. Selene stood by the window observing the city. "The fight isn't over," she said, "but today humanity won, and that matters." Jackson nodded, watching Lily. "Today she's safe, and that's everything," Selene smiled. "And tomorrow more humans will see what you just showed them. That courage, care, and determination, humanity itself, is stronger than any machine, any rule, any obstacle." Jackson felt a quiet pride. He wasn't a hero in the traditional sense. He was just a dad, doing what any human would do when everything depended on him. But in doing so, he had reminded the world and himself what humans were capable of. Outside, the city hummed with life. Neon lights still flickered, drones still moved, corporations still planned. But inside, in one quiet apartment, a father watched his child laugh, safe and unafraid. And that, Jackson knew, was the greatest victory of all. Humans were imperfect. Humans were fragile. But humans, ordinary humans who cared deeply, could change the world. And Jackson, a single dad who once thought he could do nothing, had proved it.